Hey everyone, and welcome to another week here at Just Gay Stuff Podcast. My name is Jess.
And I'm Lauren.
And we hope that you are having an absolutely fabulous Wednesday. If you're listening on Joy or if you're streaming on the day this comes out, it is a Wednesday for you.
Yes.
We hope it is a fabulous day in general. If you're not listening on a Wednesday, we hope it's a great day that ends in Y.
I see what you did there.
I'm trying to be general because, I never know when people are going to listen.
I just thought you were trying to be funny.
No, I'm never trying to be funny. Just naturally an idiot. So if you listened and tuned into us last week, you know that we have had a bit of a tough time.
Yeah.
There's a few things we didn't tell you about.
The universe wanted to just pile on while we're at it.
You know that saying, when it rains, it pours? Well, let me tell you, everyone, it's definitely been pouring. So we had that cyclone.
Yep.
That everybody endured in Queensland and northern New South Wales.
Yep, so that was one.
That was one. Then we lost our poor fur papa.
Yeah.
I'm still
We're still grieving.
gutted over that.
So that was two.
Let's not stay too long on that one.
Yeah.
The Friday before the cyclone, Lauren actually got an early mark to come home from work. And you know what, everyone? This is
It was my sign to not come home early from work.
Don't take the early mark. Do your routine, because on Lauren's way home, a pea plater smashed into her car.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, our hot water system blew up. So
that was four things.
So our neighbours, who are incredible,
Lovely people,
let us have a shower at their house. So everyone in the street has been watching everyone in our household run from our house to the neighbours and then back in pajamas.
I don't think anyone's actually watching, because if they are, that's creepy.
But you don't know. People
No,
can
I
sit
don't
inside
know.
their house and watch you from inside.
They're just peeking.
I mean, we do it to everyone else, so I just
You're just
figured
assuming
people do it
everyone
to
else
us.
is.
Okay, so the last few weeks have been a bit harrowing.
They have. And you know what? I just said to you before this, I was like, now we should put in for the lotto.
Yeah, we should put in for the lotto because we've had our bad omens in 3 or more, I reckon.
Yeah.
But so the last few weeks we've been doing these informative episodes. We've been doing some historical episodes.
Heavy ones.
Yeah, talking about history kind of talks about some terrible things.
I was going to say, as Tegan says.
Yeah, and it can get really heavy. So this week we decided to have a little bit more fun and go back to basics of what Just Gay Stuff podcast
started as.
Yeah, which was supposed to be really fun. But, we get bogged down in the things that we think everyone should know about being part of the queer community.
I think it's important to talk about those things in general.
Oh, totally.
And have that education, no doubt. But I think, it's always good to come back down to earth and have these little fun ones. And I know even though we have a tremendous amount of comments and worst first dates sitting there, we didn't want to do another one of those yet.
We are, by all intensive purposes, poking fun at ourselves at this episode.
Yeah.
And if you've read the title, you know it is called Breaking the Lesbian Stereotype.
Dun, dun, dun.
And so we're going to talk about...
Do you know what? Before you even start that, I'm going to say that's so funny considering neither one of us represent as the typical lesbian stereotype.
No, which is
people...
why it's funny.
Yeah.
And which is why we can poke fun at it. So we're going to talk about some of the big lesbian stereotypes that have been flying around since the beginning of time. And we're going to tell you, in our opinion, are they true or are they a myth that has been busted?
Right. Okay.
So we're going to run through them. Some are funnier than others.
I don't know half of these.
One gets a bit heavy, but I'll give you a trigger warning.
Okay, sure.
Let's start with probably the most common one that anyone has heard of in the lesbian community.
My eyes are already rolling and we haven't started.
And that one is, lesbians just haven't found the right man yet. So let's break it down. I believe personally in sexual fluidity with preference.
Yeah.
So by saying that, I mean it could be true for some lesbians and for others it might not. Totally. You might not have found the right man yet, but you also might not be looking for him.
Yeah.
You could live your whole life being attracted to women and then meet a man or a person in general who completely changes your view on your own sexuality. That can happen. In saying that, I don't believe it's true for the majority.
No. I know that I had that, especially before you and I met and when I had broken up with my ex-partner. Not that I was looking for men, but you always get those couples that are like, oh, you're looking for a third or you're looking for this. Or even before us, even before my ex, when I was newly out as bisexual. First of all, my thought did unfortunately go to there and go, oh, maybe I haven't found the right man yet. But that was a different thing than just stereotyping myself. But then, there would be like men on the dating apps being like, oh, yeah, you just haven't found the
You
right
haven't
man.
had my dick yet.
Yeah, you haven't found the right man yet.
I hate that.
Yuck.
I believe that some people just don't have a romantic connection or a sexual connection with the opposite sex. I believe I'm one of those people. I tried to fit in with what I grew up to believe society wanted from me, and it just didn't fit. Like, something was always missing. I've said this before. I really found zero connection in a partner of the opposite sex, even though I feel like I tried. And it was my early 20s.
Yeah.
You know, you do go through further development in years, but when I did have my first relationship with a same-sex partner, we've talked about before, light bulbs, like my head exploded, you know.
Yeah.
Would I ever rule out a romantic or a sexual connection with a man?
Yes, because you are currently taken in a very happy and healthy relationship.
Yes. But in general, like that question, I would say, no, I wouldn't rule it out. I don't like to think I would rule out anything, but at the same time, I feel like I'm also, as Lauren said, very happily taken with her, but I am also very self-aware and comfortable with where I sit sexually.
Yeah, I think I'm the same too. I don't know. I came out, obviously, as people who have listened to this podcast from the beginning know that I came out later in life. But I think for me, I don't think I ever truly had that full attraction to men, but I had that same societal pressure as you.
It is societal pressure.
Yeah, to be like, oh, that's just what you do. You grow up and you date boys and that's it, because there's no other way. Mm-hmm. But just kidding, there is always another way.
There's always another way. So is it true or is it false?
What, that you just haven't had the right man yet?
It's false.
Oh, it's false.
False.
We should have made like little signs, little paddle signs.
We should have, but we're not
that people
advanced.
Can really see.
Okay, so the next one is all lesbians hate men. Lauren, do you hate men?
No.
I don't really hate anyone.
I don't hate men. Some of our best friends are men.
Gay men.
Gay men, yeah.
They're
they're still men. No, I know they're not the same. No, well, actually, the person I was thinking of doesn't matter because they still could be fluid.
Look, I don't really hate anyone. I dislike a lot of people, if I'm honest. Do I dislike men more than I dislike others? No, I think it's 50-50, not in general. I think I dislike the men that I'm supposed to dislike, like that everyone else dislikes, like DT from America.
Yeah, I don't think you can say that lesbians hate all men because it's not always an all men situation. What if someone has a brother or a father or something that's a man and they just happen to be a lesbian? What if your best friend is a cisgender male that...
So literally, like, the easy answer is no. It's
No.
untrue. I think it's an easy assumption for people to make that women who like other women are opposed to all things male.
But that's usually what comes from like cis men whose egos are hurt that women can suddenly do things on their own with other women without them.
Yeah. I don't think that stereotype comes from lesbians ourselves. I think it comes from...
I say that's so funny, but at work today I literally was like, hate men.
But you don't really. We just joke about it.
I don't really. And I was only joking about it because, as you said, it was in response to listening to conversations that are pathetic because they're not inclusive.
Yeah.
And they're just very like you said, hating the people like we should hate, like DT.
Yeah. We would
all
say
those
his name,
people.
but I think everyone gets it when we say his initials because I don't want to get sued or anything.
An orange duck.
Yeah. Look, so can we be salty about what certain men in our circles have done? Absolutely. Yes. But I'm no more salty about the men than I am other people that have done me wrong.
I was going to say, if I'm hating everyone. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I dislike a lot of people. Do I dislike men more than I dislike the other people?
No.
Not at all. It's a true 50-50 for me.
I agree with you. I think it's a 50-50. We can love or care for or be kind to other people no matter their gender, no matter what. It's only when they've crossed that boundary or they've done something to you that then suddenly you're like, well,
look,
stuff you.
A lot of these things are blanket statements and we know that blanket statements don't fit.
No, of course not.
Now, this next one deserves a trigger warning for sexual assault, I'm afraid. So if you do need to skip forward, probably skip 5 minutes ahead. Or if you're listening on Joy, maybe just mute us for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So this next one is lesbians are lesbian because they were molested by men or experienced some sort of sexual assault, and that's why they're only sexually involved with women. Now, I think we're all going to emote the same reactions to most of these, but this one being a bit more serious, I do have a few facts. So firstly, a study published in 2024 by UN Women Australia stated that 1 in 3 women will experience physical violence, sexual assault, or domestic violence in their lifetime. So that's an estimate of 736 million women on a global scale.
Wow.
30% of this number are 15 years or older.
Oh my God.
Let that sink in for a second. So 70% of those women experienced physical violence, sexual assault, or domestic violence before they turned 15.
People who are not watching cannot see my mind churning or thinking, and my mouth just was like, what?
This also doesn't include sexual harassment. Take sexual harassment off the table.
That's so fucked up.
So imagine that number increasing to about 1 in 2, or almost every woman in their lifetime experiencing at least sexual harassment.
Jesus.
So that's 9.8% of the population that identify as women that's affecting.
Wow.
Lesbians make up 1.5% of the population worldwide, based on the same study. So looking at the facts, the answer to this is completely false. Lesbians are not lesbians because they've experienced some sort of assault from a male counterpart.
No.
It's completely false regardless of bringing my personal opinion into this. The facts are the facts. But what I do want to say is, if you have had a terrible experience with a person and you change your dating preference based on your fear or your need to feel safe, that is absolutely 100% your right. And do not let anybody take away that right from you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so dumbfounded and shocked by the numbers in that study. That's insane. And it's so sad that we as women, not just lesbians, but women as a whole, no matter whether you're a cisgender woman, a trans woman, just women in general, have to suffer from that. And that's insane. And yeah, if your dating preference changes because you need to feel safe, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But lesbians aren't lesbians because they're molested by men. Lesbians have always had those feelings for women no matter what.
But one thing I do want to bring to the table is, if you are a woman who has chosen to date other women because you still want love and you still want romance and you still want intimacy, and you don't trust a man because this has happened to you, that is fine. That is absolutely fine. And you should be able to find safety and solace in whoever you date, whether they are male, female, transgender, non-binary. Everyone should be able to have that respect and that safety, and their needs to be met. At the end of the day, sexual assault and domestic violence and things like that should not be happening in our society.
No.
The sad fact is that it does happen. And unfortunately, we can try our best, but I don't think we're ever going to eradicate it.
No.
But don't let somebody tell you that you are only something because of something that terrible has happened to you.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, you're allowed to be whoever you want to be. And I think it also goes with, again, unfortunately, majority of the time, it's men making these comments.
Yeah, totally.
You can turn around and say to them, what about women have also molested other women previously as well? So it's not just in the forefront.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Sexual assault, domestic violence, it can happen to anybody, and we can all fall victim to that. So, we are not one way or the other way because of something that's happened to us.
No.
And for those cases that it is, and that's your safety and your solace, then you have every right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy, that's all that matters.
That's the thing. So based on the facts, everybody, myth busted.
Myth busted. It's like ghost busting, but myth busting.
Yeah, except we can't change Mythbusters because that's already a show.
I know.
So the next one is one of my personal favorites, and we've discussed this briefly before.
I think this one is also one that goes up the top with the first one we read out.
It's definitely common. And that one is, one of you is definitely the man and one of you is the woman. So anybody who has heard our episodes before knows that I hate this with a passion, but I'm going to entertain it for a moment. I'm going to entertain it for a moment. Obviously, this question or assumption is stemmed from years of gender roles making up a household. And in straight relationships, people have been bending and breaking this, but in some households, it still lives on. It's very rigid.
Gross.
And I don't know how many of our listeners have been watching MAFS, but Lauren and I are suckers for trash television. Let's put that right out there.
That is because I have always been a sucker for trash television. It's like escapism for me, and I've just gone Jess into watching it.
Yeah, you've dragged me through the mud with your trash television.
You're welcome.
So we've been watching Maths, and one of the contestants on Maths who was very adamant about gender roles having a firm place in her ideal relationship
She was annoying.
was Lauren.
Yeah, she's given people a bad name.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting those things as long as you and your partner are on the same page.
Yeah.
It's like religion. Just don't force the ideal or look down at others that don't do as you do.
Exactly. I think everything comes down to communication and acceptance
100%.
and being kind. It's not that hard.
But if we were going to entertain the idea
Sure.
for 2 seconds because I'm willing to have fun with it,
Okay.
what am I?
I don't know how to answer this question, seriously.
Am I the wife or the husband? Because I cook, but I also mow the lawn.
I don't know how to answer this one, seriously.
And Lauren doesn't really do anything.
Hey, that's a lie. I go to work.
I go to work.
I know. But the thing is, I put the washing away and I clean the dishes.
Do you put my washing away? You fold it.
Yeah.
But you don't put it away. You
Sometimes
put your
I
washing
do.
away.
Sometimes I put your washing
We've
away.
started something, everyone. So do you think I would be the husband, wouldn't I?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because I think...
We're entertaining the idea for 2 seconds.
I know that we're entertaining the idea for 2 seconds, but I think that we both... There's times where I could be the husband, times where you could be the husband.
When could you be the husband?
I don't know.
I'm like, there is nothing in the household that is masculine that you do. I should say seen as masculine because we're trying to break those gender roles.
Okay, what is seen as masculine?
Well, I think
mowing.
Yeah, talking gender roles, let's say mowing is masculine, mowing the lawn.
Look, if we're going off of
heavy lifting,
if we're going off of Lauren,
changing a tire.
If we're going off of Lauren from Maths, then yes, you are more the husband in this relation.
Although, if we want to talk about like traditional, like really traditional gender roles,
I wouldn't be out working out in the workplace. That's
you
what I mean.
are the husband.
That's why I'm like, I don't know
you
how
are bringing home the bacon.
That's why I was like, I don't know how to answer this question because it's stupid.
Okay, it is stupid because gender roles are stupid, and let's break those traditions.
My thing is, I always am like, who was the first to be like, this is this, and the wife must do this, and you must do that? Like, how did that happen?
I think it stems from like cultural things though, right? Because it was like the women have the baby and take care of the baby, and the men are out providing for the family.
You are hunter, I am gatherer.
Yeah, things like that. So anyway, it must stem from back then. But anyway, the important thing is, I think in today's day and age,
it's stupid.
It is a bit stupid.
Unless it's what you want and your partner wants, and you can communicate and be respectful of that openly. But
off the back of
don't
that
ask lesbians that question.
Every relationship has a butch and a femme. Well, I mean, are we proof that that's not true? I feel like we're proof that's not true. I don't consider myself butch, but I would consider you femme. Why are you just laughing?
Because I can't. It's too funny. Yeah, I don't consider you butch at all. I definitely would consider me femme.
I would consider me...
But I've always identified as femme.
We've talked about it before. I think I'm STEM.
Yeah, STEM. It's what we feel comfortable in. It's not necessarily a femme or a butch or STEM or whatever.
Oh, yeah. When I leave the house, I look completely different to when I'm walking around in the house.
Homeless. No, I'm kidding.
No, I am in a home, so I am not homeless. But... yeah, I wear like the daggiest shorts, daggiest shirt.
We're wearing pajamas on this podcast right now.
Yeah, we are. And we already showered at the neighbour's house.
Yeah.
So. Look, I think this one is definitely false.
Yes.
I think also
Case in point.
I think also sometimes people like to see what they want to see. So even if they see a couple that are two femme girls together, their mind is going to make one out to be more butch than the other.
Well, I think because you present sometimes more masculine in ways, it's hard because even the way that you dress isn't super masculine, but some of the things are more masculine to say what I would wear.
Well, I think it comes back down to those things that are just magically gendered in our society.
That's what I mean, yeah.
So, you know, we might go out somewhere and we're both wearing makeup, we both have our hair out, but you might be wearing a dress and I'm wearing pants. That automatically makes me the boy, you know? And I feel like in society, when we see two femme girls together, which is what I was going to say before, is that we look at that and we make one out to be more butch than the other because we have to cover that section.
Why?
Because
Why?
there's this need that like one must take up the male part of the relationship.
No, they don't. We do different roles that are whichever gender we want. Or non-gender, gender fluid, whatever. Also, side note, I know this has, well, it kind of does, only because we were talking about clothes. When we were at the shops the other day looking for a birthday present for our friend and we saw that guy in a dress and he just looked so beautiful.
He looked like Sam Smith, actually, and I was like, is that Sam Smith?
I was like, yes, queen, honestly, pop off, because like...
I was like, Sam Smith, what are you doing in JB Hi-Fi?
Like just living your authentic self in a Westfield. Go on.
Yeah, I definitely love seeing that. I think it's really...
empowering.
It is, and it's good for people to see that. You know, all these people like, don't push it on my kids. Mate, that person is not pushing it on your kids. They're just living their life, so fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off.
Now, we're getting into the interesting section.
Intimate.
Lesbian sex is not real sex because there isn't a penis involved. I have a lot to say.
Go on.
Intimacy and sex is so much more than just a man and a woman having basic intercourse. And honestly, if you think anything different, I feel sorry for your sex life.
And your wife.
Here's my sex ed lesson that nobody asked for and that I am in no way, shape or form qualified to teach, but I believe should have been taught in school. Sex and intimacy actually requires no penetration whatsoever. And factually, while we're here talking about all the facts...
Wait, you're getting serious on the sex education.
I am. I looked up all these stats. Look. Women are more likely to reach orgasm via stimulation to the clitoris rather than vaginal penetration. So
That's true.
What I do think is more important is that sex, intimacy and intercourse should be spoken about a lot more openly, especially in your relationship.
Yes.
Sex, like a lot of other things, is not one size fits all. And if you want to have a happy sexual relationship with your partner, communicating what feels good is honestly the key. And I feel like a lot of relationships break down due to that lack of communication.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the lack of communication where people struggle with intimacy. And I guess, unfortunately, that's why you find it's a lot of heterosexual relationships that struggle with this and why a lot of cis men, again, not all men, probably are making these comments because, again, it's pride and ego being hurt and not understanding. But as you mentioned just now, yeah, a lot of women have more stimulation from their clitoris than vaginal penetration. And also, we can have penises involved. They're just colourful.
Yeah.
They're purple.
That's a bit further on.
Oh.
On the back of this myth is also a myth that all lesbians are good at oral sex. That is false.
Yeah.
As much as I think we'd like to joke about it, we as a lesbian community are not born with an extra set of skills that straight men don't have. But I think this is a general thought process. It might just be that some people are just more attentive to the needs of their partner. And maybe women are more open about expressing their sexual needs in a lesbian relationship rather than a straight relationship because sometimes our male counterparts can feel emasculated by having these conversations. Kind of what you were just saying.
Yeah.
But the purpose is not to emasculate you or make you feel bad. It's honestly like...
I think it's to have a better sex life. It's pleasurable for both. If your partner is feeling more satisfied sexually, then you in return are going to feel more satisfied sexually.
Totally. It is 100% to empower you and give you confidence that what you're doing is satisfying to your partner.
Literally.
I don't think anyone, gay, straight, lesbian, bi, trans, non-binary, if you are having a sexual intimate relationship with somebody, I don't think any of us want to hear that we aren't satisfying in bed.
Look, it's an ego thing. And I know for me, and this is me being very raw and real on this podcast, coming out late, I didn't know what it was like to sleep with a woman or be with a woman. So it was very hard for me to learn how to pleasure. And again, it comes down to communication with that person and with that partner and for them to give you a lot of encouragement and support. And it's kind of like just having that communication to teach you.
No, definitely. I totally agree. And we're going to stay on the sex train for this next one, which you kind of mentioned before.
Yeah.
This one is kind of weird because there's polarizing options.
Right.
So one stereotype is lesbians use dildos to replace a man sexually. And the completely polarizing opposite stereotype is lesbians don't use dildos because they hate penises.
We don't hate penises.
So there's the two myths.
we don't have this sexual attraction. Well, I can't speak for we. I am one person.
Yeah, so just speak for you.
I personally have been there, done that, and I don't have the same sexual attraction to the person behind the penis as I would to a woman and a dildo. I didn't know how I was explaining. How I was explaining that. I was going to say a woman with a penis, but that's not it.
Here's my thought process. I think that the bottom line is intimacy with consent has no limits.
Yeah.
Try everything. If you like something, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. I don't think it's fair to say that certain people all do or all don't do one thing just because of their sexuality.
Yeah.
Here are the facts I was talking about. In case anyone is wondering if lesbians are in fact having better sex than straight women.
I mean, yes.
In a survey by National Health and Social Life, it came back that women in lesbian relationships have 4 times the amount of orgasms on average than women in straight relationships. 39% of these lesbians say that their intimacy lasts for more than an hour.
Yeah.
And like I said before, women are more likely to reach orgasm via oral sex than with penetration. Well, I didn't say oral sex before, but they are more stimulated
via oral clitoral sex
rather than vaginally.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not surprised by those
statistics.
Well, I think, again, it's like what we said, everything comes back to communication.
Totally.
And intimacy, and I think that's where a lot of people in heterosexual relationships are missing out. They're missing out on the before penetration, foreplay and intimacy side of things that way, so that, they're not having the orgasms because they're not getting stimulated properly.
I think definitely communication with your partner is the key. And I think it's also safe to say that if you are in touch with your own body and you know what makes you feel good, when you're feeling someone else who has the same parts as you, it's going to be easier for you to navigate their body rather than someone who has parts opposite to you or someone else, because that's a foreign language to you, right? So it's all about communication. So just tell your partner what feels good, and hopefully they care and respect you enough to step up to the plate and listen.
And I agree with you. I think you can't know what you like sexually without you knowing and exploring yourself.
Yeah.
And then in return, that is a great way for you to be able to communicate with your partner what you like and how you like something to have a more fulfilling sexual life.
And I think if you are still struggling, then sometimes it's okay to just know that you are not sexually compatible with that person, because I think that happens a lot too.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think that has happened to me. And I think now, looking back on it, it would have been the fact that I was gay. Gay. But, being with a man in a heterosexual relationship for 8 years and never really wanting to be intimate, it just sort of was, force is not the right word, but like that societal pressure of being put upon you because you're in this relationship now and you have to do this and you do that. And I have a very curious mind. I was always curious about things, but I never wanted that. And a lot of my sexual fantasies always involved women or thinking about women, and it was never to do with men, and I don't know why I waited so long.
Speaking of sexual fantasies, you opened up that perfect segue for me.
Did I?
Because this next one's a bit of a struggle, but lesbians are always open to a threesome where another girl is involved. False. I'm open to them if only girls are involved. So there you go.
No, we'll see. We spoke about this one time, and this was only after Fletcher. And this was when you said, I love you, but if we have a chance with Fletch for a threesome, she's in it.
Girl, I'll do Fletch without you.
I know. Trust me, I know. I'm coming too. Pun intended. Pun intended. This is false. I am a very jealous person when it comes, I can't say very jealous. I'm not a very jealous person when it comes to my partner. I'm quite in this healthy relationship, quite secure. However, I feel like I would get jealous seeing you with another person being intimate that way.
Yeah, I don't have a polyamorous mindset.
No.
So I am not open to sharing my partner.
No, neither.
I'm not open to having threesomes, especially where there's a man involved.
No, definitely not.
Everyone is open to their own thing. I think that the assumption that every lesbian is open to being a part of a threesome, completely false.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. And I'm sure a lot of the other bisexual girlies can agree that was my number one pet peeve. Whenever you told a heterosexual male that you were bisexual, they're like, awesome, threesome. I was like, no.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Fuck off. I agree with you. I just have to say that, like, it's the broad general statement of saying lesbians are always open to a threesome where another girl is involved. Like, no, we're not.
Yeah. Even bisexual women are not open to
No.
that. Like, we're not always, I say we, I'm not bisexual, but I'm saying people are not in general open to something just because they like multiple genders.
I think if you're wanting to be open that way, that's fine and that's totally up to you and that's your preference. That might be a conversation that you have with your partner, whether you're in a straight relationship. That might be the conversation you have with your partner, whether you're in a polyamorous relationship. But I think to just cover that statement, both of us who are in this relationship who identify as gay or lesbians under that umbrella definitely do not want that.
Yeah. This next one hits me a little hard. We're moving away from sex and intimacy. All lesbians were tomboys growing up. That is true for me, but not for everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say
Lauren was not.
I was not. I definitely was not. And you've seen photos to prove that. The funny thing is my sister was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm the one sitting here queer. So like, there you go.
Yeah.
All lesbians weren't tomboys growing up.
Here's my take on it. I think what's important to point out with this particular stereotype is that we're talking about a time, because I feel like the term tomboy is a very 80s, 90s term.
It's a very 80s, 90s term. It is.
Yeah. So we're talking about a time where colours, clothes and toys were all gendered. And you're literally
very gendered.
And you're literally looking at a child and picking apart their hobbies and their appearance going, that girl looks like a boy. Oh, she must be gay when she grows up.
Because you and your best friend both grew up tomboys.
Yeah, we were both tomboys. And growing up is a journey and self-discovery is a journey.
Yeah.
Just because you like something for a particular time doesn't mean you're going to like it for life.
Yeah, exactly.
We grow and we change. And I think the tomboy thing is super outdated.
Yeah.
I know a lot of queer women who weren't tomboys growing up, Lauren being one of them.
Hello.
And I know a lot of queer women who were tomboys growing up. I think the other thing that's come to light is a lot of people are saying now that there's all this heaviness on our trans community is that girls who are identifying as tomboys growing up now are going to be trans later in life.
That's not necessarily true either.
That is not necessarily true. You are literally pushing these stereotypes on kids. And I think it doesn't come from within our community.
I was going to say, isn't it funny? That's the irony that the people who are hating or making those comments come from outside the community.
And don't you think it's funny? Like most of these stereotypes don't come from within the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we know ourselves, right? It's like these blanket statements come from everyone else.
Yeah.
All right. The next one ties in with the last one.
Okay.
All lesbians played sport growing up or love sport now.
I mean, you are, but I did not.
I was like, again, this is really true for me, but not for Lauren.
No, I have no desire to play sport as a child, no desire to play sport now as an adult, and I am the clumsiest person on this planet.
I don't know if it's on the planet.
Well, in this household.
Like, I've seen you carry plates from the table to the sink without dropping them lately.
Lately. That's because I had a surgery on my head. It helped. Yeah, that statement is false as false can be. To use the word box, you can't just put lesbians in a box unless they choose to be at that box.
I think the statement's pretty funny because I think sports, or the majority of sports, aren't gendered at all.
No.
And as a kid, you would usually just play mixed sport. Like everyone was just in the same team, boys, girls, whatever. But somehow as you get older, you realize a lot, not all, but a lot of the lesbians you know either played soccer or softball as a kid.
That's true.
There are other sports, but I feel like these are the two that really stand out to me. And maybe it's because that's what I played.
Which is also funny in saying that because you are currently playing soccer. But surprisingly, again, from our research and from our knowledge, you and your best friend are the only queer ones in the team.
In a team of 13, and we're just the two gaybies.
And if we go back to the one before that, someone who I would have assumed to be queer because of their tomboy appearance, and I can't assume.
You can't assume.
Is married with kids.
I know, anomaly.
It's crazy.
Like married to a man with kids.
Yeah, sorry,
Lauren
I should have
means.
specified that.
But like I said to Lauren, that doesn't mean that she's not bisexual or pansexual or demisexual.
Or fluid. We don't know their situation.
That she's married to a man with kids. And, you know, stereotypically, if we're going to talk about stereotypes, did not look like she'd be married to a man with kids.
Yeah. I also think, again, this statement, you can't put everyone under that lesbians played sport, because think about all the lesbians throughout history, as we just did our history episode. Artists in music, artists in the theatre, Shakespeare, like.
Yeah. All right, so the next one is femme lesbians are just going through a phase.
I hate this one.
Let's get one thing gay. I was going to say straight,
Love it.
but we don't want to get anything straight here on this gay podcast.
No.
Not all lesbians have to look how you expect them to look, which
people assume.
Which is butch, because let's face it, that's how society has portrayed a lesbian stereotype since day dot. There is no expectation for you to look a specific way or identify a specific way. And I know in the past, in other conversations we've had with a few of our guests who have talked about coming out as a lesbian in the 80s and 90s, that there was this caliber you had to meet to be a lesbian in society, but there isn't now. So we need to really stop putting that phase onto people.
I hate this one so much, and not just as a femme lesbian, but I hate it because I feel like even with that phase or that stigma or that label.
You don't look like a lesbian.
Yeah, it's the you don't look like a lesbian. And then I've seen so many people's TikToks where they're femme lesbians and it's like, oh, sorry, let me just get my gay. And it's like they come fully out in like rainbow.
Sorry, let me put my gay outfit on.
Yeah,
it makes sense to you.
The good ones that I like that I've seen on TikTok is like when they say, oh, just let me get my gay, and then they bring their partner.
No, that's good. But what do we look like? We look like people.
That's what I mean. Like, how can you? Yeah, it's such a dumb thing.
All right, the next one, which I found absolutely hilarious. Lesbians are trying to turn straight women gay. No. Trust me, it doesn't work. Anyone who is easily swayed was already halfway there. You can't turn someone gay. You can't turn a straight girl into a lesbian. If you could, a lot of us who had crushes on straight girls in high school would have years less of trauma. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
That's so true. I am very fortunate. I never fell for a straight girl, thank goodness.
Well, I mean, I didn't think I fell for a straight girl either, but, you know, turns out.
Yeah, I think it's harsh, and you do see that a lot of lesbians or a lot of queer people do fall into that trap, unfortunately, whether it's, you know, that straight person who's just wanting to experiment for fun, and that's fucked in its own merit.
But is it though? Because like everyone has a right to experiment.
I think everyone has a right to experiment as long as they're open with the communication. If they're not open about it and they're just like, you know, obviously you spoke about your story and they were stringing you on for a bit, then that's not on. If the communication is there and they've said to you, hey, look, I don't know what it's like, I want to try it, and then they go, oh no, actually I am straight.
Yeah.
Then sure. But I feel like a lot of women or people who identify as women or people who have that attraction to women have always had that within them anyways. It's not you didn't suddenly turn them gay.
Another thing that's connected to this is that assumption of like when you tell someone, like when you tell a fellow
Oh yes, I know exactly what you're about to say.
That you're a lesbian and they're like, oh, well, as long as you don't like me. Like that's the other stereotype, is that women have a crush on every woman.
Yeah. Sweetie, you're not my type.
Also, do straight people have a crush on all of the other straight people? No. Like, it doesn't work like that.
It's like, I hate that too. You suddenly come out to someone because you feel like you're in a safe place and then they go, oh, well, as long as you don't have a crush on me. I'm like, please.
Don't you think it's funny though?
Never.
If you say that and then they get offended and they're like, oh, why?
Yeah, exactly. I think that
Girl, what do you want? Do you want me to like you or you don't?
Actually, speaking of stereotypes, which I know you haven't said yet, and maybe you will in the end, I'm not sure, was one that we were talking about recently where gays just automatically all know each other.
Oh, I didn't put that in here. I didn't put that in here.
Where a friend of ours said to you, like, oh, this person's a lesbian.
Oh,
do you know this?
Do you know her?
You're like, no.
We don't all come from Lesbos, just so you know. And that island is probably a lot bigger than you think it is.
Yeah.
So
TM.
bottom line of this one,
False.
lesbians trying to turn straight women gay? No.
No.
The same way you can't convert a homosexual, so everyone needs to stop trying.
Yeah.
The next one. I fell into this trap. I also am part of this stereotype.
I also am part of this stereotype too.
Every lesbian has watched The L Word.
Not every lesbian.
I admit that I think this stereotype comes from the lesbians because I thought this. I just assumed that every lesbian I meet has seen The L Word and hates Jenny.
I hate Jenny, but I have also seen The L Word.
Yeah, but see, I just thought it was like a rite of passage.
Oh.
I think it's a rite of passage. And I think it's because it was a staple for me in my own self-discovery process. And I think a lot of us need something like that to relate to. Like in 2005, when The L Word first came out, it was revolutionary.
Oh,
Like,
you're old.
the show centered around a bunch of lesbians living their lives openly and freely as a closeted teenager. What more did you want to see? It gave you a sense that you could do it too. Well, it did for me. And that's where I think representation matters most.
Oh, yeah.
Even though looking back, a lot of the characters were pretty toxic, but watching it back as an adult now, I think what's important is that you can recognize that in the characters.
Yeah.
And let's be real, like back then, I was watching it because I wanted to see girls kissing other girls.
Everybody just wanted to see girls kissing other girls.
And that was the perfect fix.
I think recently we had a listener saying, oh, I'll have to watch The L Word now after we've mentioned it on the podcast. So to answer that, no, not every lesbian has watched The L Word.
But I would have thought the same thing. I
didn't-
literally thought that every lesbian had seen that show.
I hadn't seen The L Word until I had just come out and the first person that I was seeing had mentioned it.
Maybe that's a stereotype that I have in my head, is that every lesbian wants to see girls kissing girls.
Maybe.
That makes sense to me.
I mean, I definitely
I
do.
I still want to see that. Like,
Yeah.
show me. Okay, this one is funny. All lesbians love camping and drive SUVs. Sometimes I don't know where people get these thoughts from, but
False.
have I been camping? Yes. Do I love it? No. Do I hate it? Also no. I think I just like experiences with friends because I feel like I'm a bit of a pack person.
You are very much a pack person.
Do I drive an SUV?
No.
No.
Do I drive an SUV? No.
Do you like camping?
I've been camping. I don't mind.
That wasn't the question.
I don't look. It's not my favourite thing to do. I don't hate it and I don't love it.
What I like about it is spending time with your friends.
Yeah, it's the camaraderie. We had a great time when we went. And well, to be fair, that was my first time camping. I have nothing
To compare
to
it to.
compare it to.
Compare it to not camping.
Well, I didn't mind it because it was nice. It was a nice time, but I don't love it.
It was very posh of you.
I could go
was a
without.
nice time.
I could go without.
It's not my favorite thing to do. Did I enjoy it though? Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of these experiences are literally about who you
It's the
have them
people.
with.
It's not the
activity.
I was going to say the action. And I was like, no.
No, it's definitely the person.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ending on this one. I know there's plenty more stereotypes floating around, but I'm ending on this one, which is hilarious and sometimes true, but not always. All lesbians are vegetarian. I think you mean vegetarian. And the answer for
It's
me
false.
is no.
I see what you did there. When you read out vegetarian, I was like, I am one.
Lauren is a vegetarian.
And a vegetarian. Well, mine's different though, because that's like saying all lesbians are spiritual, all lesbians freaking astrology experts.
Yeah, actually, that is another stereotype. All lesbians are into astrology.
Yeah. The most
On our
astrology-
first date, tell me where your rising sun is and
Yeah.
if we are compatible.
And nothing against that if that's you. I tell you.
Oh, that's me and Lauren. We fully did that on the first date.
Stuff all the time, but I don't think you can put all lesbians in one bracket.
No, definitely not. I think at the end of the day, this episode speaks for itself that a lot of these statements are blanket statements.
So funny.
To end this episode off, I think it's important to acknowledge that we have stereotypes for a reason. They are a grain of truth in a rice field of the real world.
Damn, that was deep.
Sometimes they can help us, and sometimes, like today, they make us laugh, and they make us pull apart the reasons why we have them, why we've come to certain conclusions. But I think what is also important to say is don't let stereotypes define you or keep you in a box. We are not blanket statements, and one size does not fit all. We are human and we are uniquely us.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's so true. And yeah, this was the episode in recording that we definitely needed after these last few weeks because it's just so funny. And if you guys have any of your own stereotypes that you think are ridiculous or that we haven't missed, please write into us.
There were plenty more, but you know, we have to keep this episode down for joy. So, and we try and keep this for an average drive length. So, you know, we could be here for hours talking about stereotypes. And I would also love to talk about some of the stereotypes that straight couples face.
Maybe that'll be the next episode.
Maybe we could literally do a whole entire other episode on lesbian stereotypes because there's so many.
Yeah, I just think as well, if our listeners or our audience on social media have any that maybe they've experienced themselves.
Yeah, totally.
To write into us.
Write into us with your stories. You know where to go. justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com. You know we love to hear from you.
Send comments on Facebook, Instagram or TikTok. We've been quite active on there recently.
We love discussion. We love topics. If you've got anything for us, throw it our way. And of course, until next week,
you better remember to
stay gay, motherfuckers.
I'm talking about, you're talking about, we're talking about just gay stuff.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Just Gay Stuff. Make sure to follow us at Just Gay Stuff Podcast on all your socials and write to us with your stories at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.